Good Friday afternoon, the 3rd of December. It is just, what is that? 22 days till Christmas. Are you supposed to be counting down these days, James?
I
Because
don't.
I know I'm not. It's the 3rd of December.
I guess it really depends if you got something special coming from Christmas or not. And,
Nah. You know what? Special for me is hanging out with good people. And I've got a lot of that coming up because I've got a house full of people who will be showing up here momentarily for the last of the workshops of the year. We've got our Fully Live Ninja course that starts today. And so because of that, I'm going to be jumping off early. But I'm Dave Martin. You're on the We the People. This is Activate Humanity.
And I am James Perpride, and this is Activate Humanity. You are David Martin, and glad to hear that you got your ninja course coming on. That means good people are coming over.
That is correct. In fact, some of them are literally wandering upstairs as we speak.
Well, there you have
Frank.
it. And
we hear you, Frank.
So Davo, I'm doing something over here. I just want to pull up a couple things into my email. But while I'll do that, before we kick off the official show, I would love, and I'm sure everybody else would love, to hear if you have an update about talking to Congress yesterday, number one. And then number two, I know that you want to bid Angela Merkel a fair goodbye. She's been the head of Germany for like 500 years now. I still remembered Bush like rubbing her shoulders.
Yeah, it feels like she's kind of the queen, and you just sit there going,
she looks kind of like a queen too. That pompous looking.
Is she still there? Is she still? Yeah, she is. And but she's out now. Chancellor Merkel, goodbye and good riddance. But on the way out, she did not pull any punches, man. I'll tell you what.
What did she do?
I know that there are people who go through life kind of going, have I done enough bad in the world, or could I add one more thing just so as the door whacks me on the ass on the way out, is there something else I can do? And Angela Merkel, Germany collectively in the teeth on her tragic departure. Now, mind you, not tragic departure, because I'll tell you what, James, Angela and I have crossed paths in the not so distant past. Well, in the distant past. She was very instrumental in a deal that I was trying to get done, which was a deal on trying to help rebuild the economics of what used to be East Germany. And just to give you a framework, people, for how long Angela has been hanging out. When Angela got into her political, kind of tyrant in chief role, there was still a thing called East Germany.
She's been there a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. But for those of you who are not paying attention, she seriously did. I mean, if we're going to give Third Reich emblem or, a laurel wreath filled with termites or something out as you can't believe an outgoing anybody could possibly have done something more hideous. She took the termite infested laurel wreath because on the way out the door just a day and a half ago, she decided to do something that you seriously cannot wrap your freaking head around, James. She said that not only is she going to continue to advance the mandatory injections across Germany, but, and listen to this, people, you cannot make this up, and it even made it onto the Communist News Network, CNN. She said that the people who have been injected will have their injection status erased every 9 months. Did you hear what I just said? Every 9 months, you go from being V'd to not V'd.
Well, that doesn't sound appealing.
Well, but listen, the whole point was we were supposed to be doing this to get back to normal. She was the one that said it in the German accent. She even has said, we need to return to normal. And wir haben ein tiny problem, Angela. Because the wir haben ein tiny problem is that if you need a thing every 9 months and you have a mandatory reset button every 9 months, what you're saying is that the thing you're doing is not working.
Yeah, I think that's a clear indication that the thing you're doing is not working.
And so literally the people in Germany who fell for the sucker punch the first time around just got sucker punched, which is, oh, by the way, you followed our request. You followed our mandate. You did what we asked you to do. And by the way, 9 months from now, you'll do it again. And 9 months from then, you'll do it again. And you will keep doing it again forever, because by February 22, James, February of 2022, the parliament in Germany is voting on making permanent a requirement to keep this shit going. And I'm sitting here telling myself, right, okay, so this is Friday. It's not supposed to be the gloom and doom day, but you got to go down a pathway of saying, if you are in fact still in any way, shape, or form falling for the story that this was a public health thing, and it wasn't the stated objective that was stated in September of 2019, if you actually think that this was about a public health response to a pathogen, her outgoing press conference was in fact sequenced to match only one thing in the human experience. And James, that is the gestation frequency of humanity.
Well, you missed something, David, because you said that you have to get it every 9 months for the rest of eternity. And you know, the truth is that if you get this thing every 9 months, the rest of eternity is probably 2 or 3 years. I mean, we're talking top. So let's look at the upside of this whole thing that you seem to be missing, David, is that, you know, you only have to do it for a short period of time, and then, you know, we'll all die and, you know, we'll be on our way. So Angela Merkel, good
freaking like
bye.
Goodbye, good riddance. And
goodbye,
I'm just
good
saying,
riddance.
If Germany's population does not arise en masse, and this, by the way, includes the people who already did round one. This is one where if you go down the pathway of going, hold on a second, I did my part. I did what I was told to do. And now you're telling me that by doing that, I'm having that status erased every single 9-month period. And I have to do it again. And James, this is not boosters. This is new formulas of new RNA sequences. This is not to up the thing that you got 9 months ago. This is actually to go, oh, you get it again, you get it again, you get it again. Listen, people, let me be really clear. I have said this unambiguously for a damn long time, and I'm going to say it again. This was about getting people addicted to a universal dependency on a technological platform. That's what this was about. It never was about a coronavirus. It never was about COVID-19. And we might as well go back to Peter Daszak and say, once, as we have said many times, we need to increase the public understanding of the need for a pan-coronavirus injection. A key driver is the media. The economics will follow the hype. We need to use that hype to our advantage to get to the real issues. Investors will follow if they see profit at the end of the process. This never was anything other than the opportunistic hijack of countries, the opportunistic hijack of citizens of those countries. And it was done so that a very specific industry could build a dependency to which every human was ultimately beholden. And we, the people, must stop pretending that there is a disease and that there's a pathogen, because the disease is the fear of death and the pathogen is the injection.
Absolutely.
There you go.
So
That's
quick
my
update.
soapbox.
So, you know, that was a soapbox for sure. But, you know, I mean, You reminded me of something Jordan Peterson said recently, and I hadn't watched Jordan Peterson in a while, but I do like Jordan Peterson. And he said, I got the freaking shot so you'd leave me alone, but you haven't left me alone.
Right.
Just leave me alone, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. So, David, could you give a quick update on your call yesterday? Just
yeah.
thumbs
Sorry
up, thumbs down, and then we'll get into the topic for the day.
Hey, so listen, every time, and James, I have to redefine what winning is, because winning, when you're in the thing that we're in, is turning the aircraft carrier 1 degree, right?
Yeah.
So like I have not set as my lofty goal that somehow or another I'm going to get, an attorney general to do the right thing, or a U.S. attorney to do the right thing. What my goal is can I get in the room? Can I have a conversation? And can the conversation go from I either didn't know anything or I believed the BS to holy shit, you just opened my eyes. The great news is that starting with a significant and great news about this one is it was a physician who's also now a member of Congress. That physician was able to have the conversation that all of us would like to know happened, which is, hold on a second. You said what happened? And you said, when did that happen? And you said what the sequence was. And before long, we went from a conversation which was relatively uninformed about the issues to a conversation where this particular individual is texting me with the action steps he is taking. So kind of like what happened, James, at the Utah State Senate. We went in largely with a, let's call it neutral to negative, progress. And we turned it around and had a positive outcome. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. So people, while I was not on the show, I was in fact standing up for all of us. And that's what we did. And we succeeded. And I'm super grateful. And I'll also say that behind the scenes for this particular meeting, I had the support of a former attorney general of an eastern state. I will not say which one, but I had the very strong support of a former attorney general, which helped. And I had the very strong support of some real badass special forces guys who are seriously in our corner and have decided that what's being done to the military is not acceptable. And so they see what I'm doing as very helpful. But I also had something else happen yesterday, James, which was really cool. I had a whistleblower call me.
Nice.
And it ain't low on the totem pole. It's very high on the totem pole. He and I had a wonderful conversation. Turns out that he's going to be able to point me in a couple directions that I haven't spoken about before, but I will potentially give some indication about that when I am in Dallas, Texas, next Friday, a week from today, where I am going to be gathering with a group of people who have decided to look at potentially provisioning what needs to be the first significant campaign that we're launching. So great news is, and if you're in the Dallas, Frisco, Texas area next Friday, I'll be there. You can hang out and we'll be launching that up. But it was a great day yesterday, James, is the bottom line. We had an enormous amount of progress, and it was progress that's taking humanity forward.
I think next week I want you and I to do a show together where we really talk about the fact of, that moving line of victory, because we've had so many of these meetings with so much disappointment. We keep having them and nobody responds, and we keep having the meetings and nobody responds. And, I know that you have the same frustrating phone call every single day for the last 2 years. I've had similar phone calls. And the bottom line is that people just aren't doing what they say they're going to do. Right. Yep. And I've never seen it so systemic as I see it right now. But I'm going to kick off today's show. And, we'll talk about that next week, because I think that really comes down to a coordinated effort, mass noncompliance, us as a group starting to do the things that we want to do. So, David, on Wednesday's show, we had the wrong talk about guns, and we talked a lot about mental illness. And, I think that we were a little bit cavalier in the fact that what we didn't recognize is that right now, listening to our sound of our voice, there could be one, there could be potentially hundreds of people that are considering things like suicide right now.
Yep.
Because this is a dark place. And, I told you earlier on the phone, when I think of this idea of, walking dead or dead men walking, and when I start to think about the fact that, this is actually the light period. We're in the light period.
Yep.
I mean, winter's coming, to quote, the darkness is coming, meaning this has been such a well executed plan by the darkness that we need to stick together and we need to support each other, because guys, there is a lot of really dark shit ahead, right?
Yep.
Because there are plenty of people who are not going to withstand the countermeasure long term, that we don't know how many of these countermeasures they can withstand. And, there's a lot of darkness coming. And I think it's important that we shore something up. So I want to show you guys something that's really close to my heart and dear to my heart. So I'm going to share my screen here for a second. Share screen, and then Windows. I want to pull up this one.
Hey, Denise, to get Fauci dossier, just search on any browser, Fauci dossier in my name, and you can grab it for free. Go for it, dude.
So for those of you who don't know, the person in the shopping cart is my beautiful wife, Steph, and the person behind her is her wonderful, loving, kind brother named David. And so 2 years ago today, we lost David to suicide. And, I've got a couple more pictures of him here I'd love to share, because he was just such a kind and loving human being. And, it's so awful when you start to think about, how many people we've actually lost over the last several years to many different things. Here's another picture of Steph and David. Steph and David were absolutely best friends, and she was absolutely crushed when he died, as David was one of my best friends in the world as well. And I was crushed when he died. And, we lost him 2 years ago today. And so as I start to reflect on, times like this, I'll show one more picture just because, I can here. When we reflect on times like this, and we reflect on the fact that, we are facing a lot more darkness than we know what to kind of comprehend at this point in time. There we are after a Spartan race with his beautiful wife, Christy, and my beautiful wife, Steph, and the old fat version of me. And then David, David looked like John Cena. And, my favorite thing about David, just so I can, see you guys, some of my favorite memories of him were the fact that, David and I would, occasionally sit down and drink a couple glasses of wine or have a couple drinks. And, I like to tease people, and that, and my kids know that. And sometimes if you were to walk into our house, you would assume that everybody here hates each other because we're constantly teasing each other. But it's always in good fun. But David was always the funnest person to tease, because no matter what I said to him, right, that he just laughed. He just thought it was hilarious. He had this wonderful sense of humor. He had this wonderful, disposition to him about him. He was a true friend. He was a warrior. He would have done anything for me. And we lost him 2 years ago today. Now, I know from your personal story, David, that you've lost best friends.
Yep.
About 20 years ago, just before I met my beautiful wife, and before 22 years ago, before I went to jail, I found my best friend Jeff had OD'd on drugs, and I had the displeasure of finding him, and we can call that what it is, which was, Jeff was in the situation where he had done drugs for a long period of time. He'd sobered up, and then the life that he sobered up to wasn't one that he was ready to face. And he did drugs one more time, and he died. And I held him in my arms shortly after that, and that was heartbreaking. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, I lost my very best friend in the world. His name was Tom, and Tom had committed suicide because he had an adverse reaction to a medical treatment, and it made him, go delusional. And I would sit every day on the phone with him, and I would, work his way back to a normal, healthy state of mind, and then he wouldn't sleep, and in the morning he would be right back. And this happened for months and months and months. And as he had tried, we had stopped him. He had tried, we'd stopped him, and then he finally, succeeded. And it was I remember that day because we'd woken up early on a Saturday morning, and Steph asked me if I wanted to go get a pedicure with her. And so I said yes. And I remember we were sitting at the pedicure place and we were doing some of that paraffin wax on our feet. And just as the paraffin wax was on our feet, I got the phone call. And I'm sitting in this chair where I can't get out of because my feet are literally covered in wax. And, tears are streaming down our eyes, and I'm so hot I can't stand it. And I started thinking about, all the people, not only that, I've lost, I've lost 3 or 4 of my best friends in the entire world, 2 of them to directly suicide, 1 to drugs, but all the people that all of us have lost, in remembrance of, because, what I would say is that when I look back at those situations, and some of those situations, it was to me, it was obvious, and it was like a bad movie that I couldn't stop.
Yep.
And that I wanted to more than anything. But I know that there's people in the community. I know there's people sitting, especially in Australia right now. It's been very dark winter for them down there, and they're coming out of their winter and going into summer. And there are people that are right now considering taking their own lives. And, the darkness is enveloping so many people right now that, I want to reach out to people and tell people that, listen, in memory of, my beautiful brother David and my beautiful brother Jeff and Tom, and, and it doesn't even have to be, drug related or suicide related. We've all lost a lot of people. I remember you lost your best friend as a child, and nobody believed you for a while. And that story is just absolutely heartbreaking. But, I was watching a movie recently. It was like Monsters, Love and Monsters or something. There was an adult and the child there, and the main actor, had apologized because one of them lost their parent and the other one lost their wife. And the guy said, we all have stories like that.
Yeah.
And right now we all have stories like that. And the darkness and winter is just beginning. So I think we need to be able to show up as a community and say, if you are absolutely, in a dark place, reach out to somebody in the network, reach out, do not, suffer in silence, because we have lost a lot of good people, not even, over the last 2 years, but, over the lifetime, the amount of pain that we've all, done. And I think it's important to call out to say it's a perfectly reasonable thing to be depressed right now, to be, feeling dark right now, to feeling gloom. And sometimes I wake up and I allow myself to feel the gravity of the situation, and I get into those dark, gloomy places. But, I think that this is a fight that's worth fighting, and that everybody is worth fighting for. And, I just want people to know that we love you and we care about you, and that, we are going to work together to pull humanity out of this. But just know that, we're not at the end. We're at the beginning of this fight.
Yeah.
Very much articulated by some of the things that you said at the beginning.
Well, James, first of all, knowing how deeply impacted Steph and your family was, I love the fact that we're taking this moment to reflect on the life of David and the beauty that, she holds, and that you hold, and that your family holds for what he is and what he represents. And I think, the show on Wednesday actually was a real important conversation, because what we were trying to do, and what we're absolutely committed to doing, is to say that, as projected and predicted on that show, we have CNN anchors, and we have Fox anchors, and we have, network anchors who are just sitting there going, I'm tired of doing the same show. And like I said, then they're failing to see their role. They're failing to see their part of the problem, because it turns out when the drumbeat of negativity is the only message that they are propagating. And then they go, well, I don't understand why people are having emotional problems or mental health problems. There's not a self-examination to say whether you're an elected official, whether you are in the media. There's not an examination to say, oh, did I create or did I contribute to that? And you and I have had this conversation actually many times about our own show, is, do we want to have a show where we essentially shine light on what appears to be futility? And James, what I want to say is actually 2 things. First is, that most of us need to end our lives. Be careful with how I said this, but most of us need to end our lives because our lives are not ours. Most of us are living a story that is not ours. And when I say end, I don't mean that in an insincere or a jovial or cute way. What I'm saying is that we have allowed society, we have allowed social systems, we have allowed medical practices to be the arbiter of what life is. And it turns out, and listen, I have a first person account of this in 2013, James. I've shared this with you. I had actually made preparations for the end of my life. And I did it because I had calculated that it was easier for me to do that than to face the emotional pain of going through life changes that in my life I didn't have a roadmap for. So quite literally, and that's Dave Martin, people, you're actually hearing me say this. I looked into a future where it looked better to not be in that future than to live with the pain of what I knew I was going to have to endure and encounter because of a roadmap I didn't have for life. That's a real thing. And I had a very elaborate, very planned out approach on how that was going to happen. And James, the beauty of that experience was at a few very important moments, I sat back and asked myself, hold on a minute, what am I defending? Am I defending my life and my experience, or am I saying that my life is less important than a social illusion that's been placed on my life? And it turns out that from my experience, I had to end my life to start living. I literally had to stop saying that what society defines as an appropriate relationship, what society defines as the role of husbands and wives and fathers and everything. I had to stop that story and start living my story. And so, number one, when we are down and depressed, and I have been there, when we're there, there's an enormous value in examining the moment and going, hold on a second. Am I actually responding to something that's objectively happening in my life, or am I tired of defending an illusion that I know does not serve my life?
I think that's
for me. There is no question I had to address that. And the second thing is, you and I, James, were committed to doing this show because alone is the worst place to be.
Alone is the worst place to be.
Whether you're objectively alone or whether you're emotionally alone, alone sucks. And so all of you that are listening, all of you that share this, all of you are living proof that one thing that was the impulse that we had to start this show is true, which is if we, the people, actually can remind ourselves, an hour a day, half hour every day, a couple days a week, that, hey, you know what? We're not the only crazies out there. There are other people who are, in fact, struggling with overcoming challenges, having successes, having failures. Listen, part of my commitment to being public about the fact that I go to bat, and most of the time, I don't connect. I want people to know that Dave Martin is largely on the scorecard of success and failure, mostly a failure. I want that to be normal because that's what life and pursuing lofty goals is. A lot of times you're at bat, a lot of times. And remember that a Hall of Fame player never connected with the ball 70% of the time. A Hall of Famer did not hit the ball 70% of the time, and that's the best players in the world. So guess what? Let's normalize the fact that, you know what, it didn't work out.
It didn't work out. And I love that you said that because it's so important. I think, sometimes I read comments and, there's been comments like, oh, you guys don't have the problems I have. And one of the things that I want to articulate is we do have the problems that you have. And if you're sitting there and you're depressed and you're feeling alone and you're feeling like, and you're feeling futile, like, we're not making progress and this is never going to change, that simply means that you're not a sociopath. Right? That you have compassion.
And it's a good thing. It's
right.
Exactly right.
And that's a good thing. I mean, allow yourself to feel these. So, shortly about just before we met, I wrote a book on fear. I forgot that I wrote the ebook on fear. I just posted a link to it in the Google Drive. And I would appreciate if people, download it. I'll post it to the network as well and read that book, because it really will help you deal with the challenges that we're facing. Because when I was, somebody was like, you were in jail? Why were you in jail? Because I was a drug addict. Well, why were you a drug addict? And every time I talk to a drug addict, I say, well, why do you do drugs? And the answer is always the same, is because I was trying to escape the very same pain that you were talking about, when in 2013, I was trying to escape that same pain, because life had dished me up, but nothing but shit. And a good portion of that shit was of my own doing, because of my own stories I was telling myself about who I was and what I was capable of and everything else. But sobering up, was such a stark wake up reality that it was so painful that I couldn't stand to do it. And the only thing I did for 2 years of my life was try to stay as high as possible, as long as possible. It didn't matter, who I had to hurt, what I had to do to escape, but that was my escape. I probably was too much of a chicken shit to end my own life, but I did in my own way. And one of the things that I would say to people, and I've said this since the beginning of the pandemic, when I wrote that book, was, a lot of times, when we were faced with our lives and we look at it, don't be so quick to try to get back a life that wasn't working for you in the first place. Do not. I mean, because there is no, when I look at even the case we talked about where, we talk to people and they promise to do a bunch of things, and, the people they talk to promise to do a bunch of things, and people are failing one another. And it's like, guys, was the life that we had prior to all of this BS worth living to begin with? And if the answer to that question is no, then don't mourn the loss of a life that wasn't worth living, because I promise you, you will survive. And the bottom line comes down, and I know you got to go in a minute, so
I just want to share something that I just received as a text.
Okay, so
because
the bottom line,
go ahead.
So the bottom line is that you will survive. Life persists. We will persist. We will get through this. But the only way we get through this is together.
That's exactly right.
United effort and together, and by sticking together and loving one another and showing that love. And even if somebody's thousands miles away, please. I see Frank in the chat, helping somebody who's dealing with a crisis right now. We have to lean on each other. We have to depend on each other. And if you're feeling sad and you're feeling alone and you're feeling defeated, you are not alone, because I woke up this morning feeling that same way. And I know David wakes up a lot of mornings feeling that same way. But guess what? We scrub ourselves off, we lift ourselves up, and we live to fight another day. So David, what is the text that you just received?
So the text I just got, people, and please treat this with respect and dignity, and make sure that you handle it energetically in a mature way. But I just got a text that Judy Mikovitz's husband has passed. And as a beautiful person who has done amazing things in this world, I just would love for this network of beautiful people to just send Judy and their circle of friends a ton of love, because it is a difficult time anyhow. And I just want you all to know that that she is going to be going through what is a very, very difficult time. They were very close and they relied on each other quite a bit. And so send love and send light, and do not disrupt, but just, give love to Judy and her family, and make sure that we model that support for humanity that in fact will keep us going through the darkest of days. So, James, I got to jump because I've got an interview that is coming up. But thank you for this show.
You jump. I'm gonna walk everybody through an integration technique just as a good way to end this show to help anybody who's dealing with anything. Judy, we love you. Sorry to hear about your husband. And David, have a great ninja class, and I'll continue this thread for a few minutes, and then
all right,
I'll jump as well.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.
Right. So I also wanted to, bring up the fact that I got a call just before I got on this show today, and our good friend, Dr. William Wiseman, the scientist behind the vitamins and the energy project, was rushed to the hospital this morning with pancreatitis. He's in a fairly serious condition. So if you guys would send love and prayers to Bill. He was on the show, a couple of weeks ago with me, going over the vitamins and everything. So please send that out to them. But the bottom line here, people, and this is what I want you guys to understand is, I've lost people who are close to me. I've dealt with massive amounts of pain. This day is particularly hard. Tomorrow's Steph and I's, wedding anniversary, and David's death overshadows that. And, today's a day of a lot of pain and a lot of, regret and remorse and, questioning ourselves, what could we have done differently? What could we have done? Could we have done this? And every time I lose somebody close to me, and it's happened so many times now, those are the questions that go through our heads. And so I just want, for those of you right now that are experiencing the pain and the, remorse, or even your own depression and those types of things, whether it be because you lost somebody close to you or you've been in isolation a long time, we do have methodologies for helping that. And I did post a copy of the book on fear. It's called, I'm going to post it again right now. The book is called, I'll pull it up here for you guys to kind of see it. It's Breaking the Cycle of Fear. And I would recommend that, you guys, if you have the opportunity, it's a short read, it's a fast read. I put a lot of tools in there to help people who are dealing with massive amounts of pain right now to, do it. Here's the book here, Breaking the Cycle of Fear. You can, some I wrote just as the pandemic was kicking off because I saw so many people in fear and so many people in pain. And there is a lot of information in there that will help, support you in whatever you're dealing with. But I want to take the next 10 minutes, guys. And I've done this on the show before. And those of you who have had the experience of it, have done the integration technique with me. It works every time. You can do it as many times as you want. But I want you to, I'll walk you through a technique just to help give you relief. If there's people that are feeling depressed right now, that are feeling alone, that are feeling isolated, this should help. And so this is my way of helping support, the people in the community and everybody who's listening to the sound of my voice right now. And so what I want everybody to do is we're going to do a group meditation. And so I want everybody to kind of close their eyes. And the first thing I want you to do as you close your eyes is I want you guys to send love to Judy really quick. Just send as much love and, to her as you possibly can. Send that healing energy to Bill. These people are in our family. They're a part of our family. They're close to us. They're important to us. And please send so much love in those two people's direction. But I want you to allow yourself to focus on your own pain for 1 second. And so I want you to think about something that really has, got you upset over the last couple of years, maybe has you depressed, maybe has you feeling like you're not your best self, or you don't feel a lot of hope right now. And I want you to allow yourself to move into that feeling. And I promise you, if you allow yourself to move in the feeling, when we're done, we'll clear this and it'll be gone and you'll be in a good place. It'll only take a few minutes. And so the first thing I'd like you to do is close your eyes, think about the pain, think about the sorrow that you're feeling inside, maybe over a loss or something that upsets you about the current state of the affairs. And I want you to bring it up, and then I want you to recognize where that is showing up in your body. It could be at the top of your chest, could be in your heart, could be in your stomach, could be in your legs, your arms, shoulders, head. it can be anywhere. And all of those things have meaning to them. And I put those in the book that I shared with you guys. I want you to focus on the pain that you're feeling in that different area. And I want you to allow yourself to feel it. And so here's what we have. When we were children, we don't have the emotional, physical or emotional intelligence to deal with the trauma that we experience. And so what we do is we store, pain in our bodies. That's why you're feeling it in your body. And so I want you to focus on that. And as you focus on the pain, just allow yourself, this is a feeling thing, not a thinking thing. Allow yourself to feel that pain, and an early childhood memory, an early life memory will just kind of pop in your mind. And it could be something as silly as, the silliest thing you can imagine, but it generally has to do with feeling rejected or feeling like, you weren't good enough. The first time you kind of felt those types of things, those are the memories that generally come up. And I want you to think about that memory for a second. And I want you to understand this was the introduction to fear into your life. And as you focus on that memory, I want you to picture that younger version of yourself after whatever traumatic event just happened. And it didn't have to be what you would consider to be a traumatic event. It was a traumatic event for them. It could be your parent told you that you weren't good enough or asked you what was wrong with you. I want you to focus on that for a minute. And then we're going to walk through releasing that pain. You're going to feel real relief around it. So close your eyes. Allow yourself to feel the pain. I want you to see the younger version of yourself just after the experience that you just had. And I want you to walk up to the younger version of yourself, and I want you to put your arm around that younger version of you. And I want you to tell yourself it's going to be okay. And I want you to give yourself the love that you needed in that moment from somebody else that you didn't get not to experience this pain. And I want you to tell that younger version of yourself that you have incredible strength and that you have an incredible life and that you're an incredible human being because of their strength. And I want you to appreciate them and love them and cherish them and give them the love they needed in that moment. And then as you are giving them that love, now I want you to feel the pain, and I want you to breathe deeply into the pain. If the pain's in your chest, just breathe deeply and say, I choose to release this pain. I no longer need it as a reminder. And so I choose to release it. And as you're breathing deeply, as you say, I choose to release this, I choose to release this, you'll start to feel the pain dissipate. And so as you feel this pain dissipate, just allow yourself to feel it. And if it's fighting you, and it's saying things to you, just say, thank you. I choose to release you. I no longer need you. And so as you feel that pain release, you're going to hear a lot of white noise in your head, and recognize that's home. You should find home every day, and you're going to feel a real sense of relief. You're almost going to feel a lot lighter. And so feel that and release that. And then I want you to do one more thing. I want to leave you with a massive gift. And here's the gift. I want you to think about the things that you love most in your life right now. I want you to think about, maybe it's your significant other, maybe it's your children's, maybe it's your dog, maybe, whatever it is that you love the most. And I want you to bring up that feeling of love in your heart as strong as you can feel it. Just allow it to glow. Allow that love that you have for the beautiful things in your life to radiate. And I want you to allow yourself to feel that love for just a minute. And then I want you to go back to that younger version of yourself. And I want you to say this very specific thing too. Say, life has been no fun without you. I want you to come home. I can protect you. I can keep you safe. And I want you to take that younger version of yourself from wherever they're sitting, and I want you to put it into your heart next to the things that you love most in the world. And if you do that, I want you to see that younger version of you smiling back at you and saying, thank you. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for giving me the support that I need in this time of pain and trouble, because you have to become your rock. You have to learn how to self-soothe. You have to be the knight in shining armor that you're waiting for, and see that younger version of yourself smiling back at you and showing you love. It's written in the book that I just wrote. It's written in our main book. It's in the movie, but you can find this technique. It's called the emotional integration technique. And every time that you get upset or you get upset, you can run this same technique and feel the same level of relief that you're feeling right now. I'm looking at the chat, and somebody just posted, "I need a friend." Right? I mean, guys, there are people in pain right now. Angela, I need a friend. Somebody reach out to Angela. Message Angela on. It looks like she's on YouTube, and be that friend for each other. We have to be there for each other. If what else is worth fighting for if it's not the human connection we feel for one another? I want to end today's show by just recognizing that, I just want to tell those who passed in the last couple of years, my Aunt Linda, who was just a precious, lovely soul, and David, and all of the other people. My oldest son's mother, Cannon, his mother passed a couple of years ago without, a heart attack, 45 years old, no warning, and just prayers for the people, because we've all lost people. And we want each and every one of you to hold on and to know that we love you and we're here to support you. And please support one another, whatever stage you are in opening up to, the tragedies that are going on in the world, whether you're at the beginning going, how could this be? Or whether you're at the very bottom going, I can't take this anymore. It's so dark. We all need support. We all need love. This community needs to go out, and we need to support one another. A message on the network, a message on social media, just a message that you matter and that you're important and that we need you. It's sometimes enough to save somebody's life. So I would ask that all of you support one another, and David and I will continue to fight the good fight, and we will continue to support you guys, and we will continue to put out this content, and we will continue to share our love and shine our love on you guys as well. And we appreciate all the love coming back in our direction as well. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Continue to send love to Judy. Please send love to Bill. Bill is just like one of the most gorgeous, beautiful human beings you can possibly imagine. And my heart is breaking this morning for him, because I can't even get in contact with him. I talk to him 3 or 4 times a day, and I can't talk to him. And, David Montgomery, I just want you to know, wherever you are, that I love you and that your sister loves you, and that we appreciate the wonderful contribution you made to our lives before you left this planet. And we will always value the love and the happiness and the joy that you brought to us. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.